to talk tonight about Indianapolis Teaching Fellows, and we have two incredible people from the program joining us today. So want to make sure that there are a myriad of people here to provide information about our program. So tonight we're going to cover a couple of different areas. First, specifically introducing ourselves and a little bit about what we do with the program. Then we're going to talk about some quick facts, the application process and eligibility. And we're going to turn it over to the site team to talk about what the program looks like, including pre-service training and hiring, a day in the life of a fellow, and then close it out with some of the financial components and next steps for you as an applicant. So my name is Amy Kate Wilkins. I am the recruitment specialist, so handling the front end of this process as you are interviewing for Indianapolis Teaching Fellows. I'm here to help you along that process before connecting you with the site team. And now I'm going to pass it over to Greg, who's joining us this evening.
Hello, everybody. Good evening. I'm Greg Sparks. I'm the cultivation coach. So I'm kind of like the midpoint between Amy Kate and Candace, in that I provide the lens from like the experience of an educator who is currently in the classroom. I'm also alum of ITF, and I went through that experience back in 2016. So this is my 7th year teaching. And as I said, I'm just here to definitely be that middle person as you are offered in the program, and kind of be your guidance along the way. Passing it on to Candace.
Hey everybody, I'm Candace Jones. I'm the program manager for Indianapolis Teaching Fellows. I have the distinct privilege to introduce all of our new fellows to the program. So I get to be the first person to meet you and help you to get onboarded and all of that good stuff when you enroll. So our program is an alternative teacher preparation program with the ultimate goal that you would earn your teaching license in the state of Indiana. So Indiana has some specific requirements around what it means to transition into the field of education. So you need about, depending on what subject you're going to be teaching, you need about 18 or 24 official credit hours within what we call transition to teaching coursework. Not really important for you to remember right now, but it is important when we're talking about the partnership that we have with Marian University, because essentially you will not only fulfill all of the requirements for transition to teaching coursework in the state, but you'll also be earning enough credit hours to earn your Master's of Arts in Teaching. So our partnership with Marian is a really critical component of what we do, because essentially you're doing two things at once. You are earning your license and also earning your master's degree at the same time. So ITF has a really wide reach in the city of Indianapolis, I would say. There's not many places that you can go in education and not find an ITF alum, which we love. And our alumni really work in a variety of roles within education. So we've got our veteran teachers like Greg. We have school leaders and administrators who have come through our program. We have several people who are working in education nonprofit, policy influencers, and even some folks in higher ed. So there's really no limit to what you can do coming through our program. And we're really proud of the strong network that we have that you hopefully will be a part of.
So speaking of, we know that you are likely really eager to be a part of that network. And the first thing you might be asking is it even possible? Am I eligible? There are a couple of key things, definitely because of licensure with the state, that are eligibility requirements for our fellows. Those are on the screen here. The biggest ones being that you hold a bachelor's degree. If you're currently a senior in college, as long as that is conferred by June 1st, then you're good to go. We do have some minimum GPAs, a 3.0 or a 2.5 with 5 years of relevant professional experience or a graduate degree. And then there are some other things just as far as having taught before, having a work visa to be in the country. Those are various eligibility requirements that we have. My go-to recommendation is that if you are in doubt if you're eligible, let's reach out, let's talk about it, and let's try to get you connected as best we can, because we know that if people want to be in the classroom and they have a passion to serve kids in that capacity, then we want to help you get there. So when in doubt, ask questions, and we're here to support. We have a couple of areas of licensure that cover a wide variety of things. So hopefully you find a passion or a niche in one of these content areas: biology, chemistry, English, and mathematics. At the secondary level, Spanish, early childhood, elementary, English as a second language, and then special education. And so if you're considering any of those areas and you want to talk through what that looks like, or potentially be connected to someone that already teaches it, then let us know and we can connect you. One of the key pieces that we have already talked about, or Candace has mentioned, is our partnership with Marian University. And Marian is the space where you will earn your master's degree and complete coursework while doing this program and working towards your licensure. So it's important for us to be upfront about those costs. And then we'll talk about some of the financial resources on the back end to support this. The first is the tuition. Just shy of $13,000 to attend for the 2 years or 6 semesters. There are payment plans available. There are deferment opportunities. And we will also talk about some of the financial resources that can support with that tuition. The program itself doesn't have a cost associated with it, but Marian University and that tuition is a requirement for our fellows. So we want to be upfront about that. And then in just a little bit, we will tell you about some various ways that you can get support with that financial component.
So one really critical area that's important to know, and again, like all of the information that we're sharing, you don't need to commit to memory, but just for your information, there are 2 licensing exams that you'll take in order to qualify for your teaching license. So one of them is the Praxis Content Knowledge exam. So this is the exam that covers the material that you'll be teaching. So if you teach math, there's going to be math on this test. The Principles of Learning and Teaching is more around the methodology or pedagogy of teaching. This is one that we don't recommend that you take until you're into your 2nd year of the program, because a lot of the things that you're learning in your teaching experience and in your coursework at Marian will kind of be covered more or less. But also, prior to receiving your license, one thing that's important to know is that the state requires you to work on a permit. So this is like a temporary teaching license. And so the timing of when you take particularly your content area exam is really dependent on your undergraduate GPA. And this is something that we can talk about once you enroll. But we do want to put testing on your radar, because both of those exams are exams that all fellows are required to take. And we also have some testing support that's available through TNTP. So if you're a little hesitant about taking a standardized exam, which I am too, we have a partnership with study.com and also 240 tutoring, just to provide you some resources that you can prepare in advance for those. So another major component of our program is pre-service training. So this is our summer intensive training. It's about 6 weeks long. It runs from June 5th to July 14th this year. And it's a pretty solid commitment, I would say. So we are asking you to join us Monday through Friday, each week of pre-service training from 7:30 a.m. to about 4 p.m. So the purpose of the training, well, I would say it covers a few different purposes that it serves. So the first is that that 6-semester program with Marian, because of our partnership, pre-service training actually serves as your first semester at Marion. And so some of the things that you will be doing during the training time, including the hours that you'll be serving teaching and some other assignments that you'll be asked to turn in, all of those are credited towards your master's degree. So you're essentially starting your master's program on June 5th, 2023, which is really exciting. And so there's several other things for you to be able to build community with your cohort members. We think that that's really important just so that you have some connections, you're building your network, and you have a support system of individuals who are experiencing kind of a similar journey as you, which I think Greg can speak a little more to. But then the other part is that there are a couple of distinctives of our program. We really try to focus on building and developing our teachers' mindset. So we are of the belief that no matter what a student's background or current situation is, that all students are capable of achieving at high levels. And so that's something that we reiterate during the program. You'll have an opportunity to be in front of students teaching summer school, and then you'll have an opportunity to really dial in to some of the skills and techniques that will be important as you teach your own classroom, and then we'll be able to provide some coaching support along the way. So the summer covers a lot of different things, and I'm excited for Greg to kind of speak to his experience as well.
Absolutely. Thank you, Candace. So like I said before, I am currently in the classroom and I was alum of the program, but also served as a staff member at pre-service training. So I really want to highlight the importance in that, pre-service training is an opportunity to earn these master's credit hours and all that, but it's really essential in that we're building the foundations on top of which you will be going into the classroom, being real strong as an educator, particularly the mindsets that are going to make you have a sustaining career as well. We want to build strong educators that are student focused. And I think pre-service training, through both my experience as a fellow and a staff member, definitely provide that. And so I think going into a little bit more detail about what it is to be a fellow, in particular, that time block seems to be some of the initial, okay, let's get it going. The 7:30 to 4, you get used to it at first, I will definitely say. It's a transition. I know that when I was in pre-service training, I was coming straight out of college and had just moved here from Texas. So kind of getting those gears running and immediately having a new kind of daily schedule, kind of it gave me I had to get used to it. But at the end of the day, I found that time just kind of flies by, especially since you're engaged so deeply in the educational aspect, but also you're building community with the other fellows that have gone through the pipeline up until this point. So I think there's a big opportunity to be excited and really hit the ground running with these conversations, and also just the spirit of collaboration. And I think using that spirit of collaboration and fostering it within yourself early, again, leads to a sustained career as an educator, because collaboration is one of the biggest things as you step foot into the classroom. That's one of those unlocked or not previously tapped into things, not immediately noticeable, that pre-service training will definitely make that a part for you. In addition to the fact and the spirit of collaboration, the fact that you have a coach guiding you through the whole process immediately lets you know that you're supported. You're not kind of just thrown into this new educational sphere, because I know ITF, we definitely have a commitment to bringing people from all walks and careers into the classroom. And so the initial shift in kind of what education is can be intimidating, but it's less so when you have that support around you with people that are going through the same thing, in addition to a coach that's fully got your back. And I think lastly, ITF makes it very clear what your benchmarks for performance are, and that can be used as a way to boost your confidence going into the school year, because you're immediately knowing what it is that you have as an asset when you come into the classroom as a teacher, but some of those things that you need to work on also going into the school year. I think our program paints a really clear picture in that respect. So definitely leaning into those opportunities as far as fostering collaboration, and using the resources that you have with your coach are going to be launching pads that are initiated throughout pre-service training and into your first year as a full teacher.
So prior to pre-service training, from the moment that you are accepted into our program, right up until the summer is the period of time that we call enrollment. So this is like pre-program, but it's still a pretty critical part of the program. And we'll explain a little bit more about what that means. But during enrollment, one of our goals for you is to be able to secure a teaching position with one of our school partners. So we partner with schools within Center Township in Indianapolis. There are several townships within our city, but we partner primarily with Center Township, IPS, Indianapolis Public School District being one of our largest partners. And then we have several charter networks and schools that we partner with within Center Township. So you have a pretty wide range, I would say, of schools that are possibilities for you. So you'll have an opportunity to do some research. I always like to tell fellows, like, you want your school placement to be kind of a happy marriage between a school that needs, your subject area and needs you there, but then also a school that aligns with your personal values. So we really think that it's important for you to do as much research as possible, connect maybe with some alumni who teach at a school, ask them about their experience, because we really want wherever you decide to work to be a place where you feel like you are really thriving. And so along the way, we will provide as much support as we can. So one thing that we do is we host a private website that is private to our school partners and school leaders. And so when you are looking for a position, we will post your resume, a picture of you, a short bio about you, so that those principals can have an opportunity to kind of get to know you and interact. And then they are free to reach out to you as far as like further conversation or interviews. And we've seen that be really successful for a lot of our fellows. And then we also provide like resume support. If you would like to do a mock interview, we try to make sure that we are giving you enough support and not just saying, okay, go find a job. Like, we want to make sure that we are partnering with you in that process.
And very much to like add on top of that as well, I think, again, coming from the cultivation lens, and that I was both a fellow, but also has been a staff member. Hiring when I was a fellow felt like this kind of like daunting thing in a way, because it was my first experience like jumping to a full career outside of college. But also like people had been enrolled in the program that lived in Indianapolis, and like they were able to like kind of engage more locally, whereas I was like back in Texas. So I say that to say, like, I know that there are people that are out there that are going to be a part of our program that are not living in Indianapolis, and still I don't even want to just say like it was very possible. The program empowers you in a way to be able to be successful, especially once you are in the city. So it may not be until like PST during like boot camp when you finally like secure that hiring, when you start securing those interviews and start talking to school leaders and all that. And that's okay, because as Candace said, you want to find that happy medium between what it is that you see as important for you as an educator, but also the needs of the school as well. And the more that you like begin to network also with other fellows as they go through the hiring process, and also using the staff members at ITF kind of to like filter, coach yourself, or use them as coaching resources in order to be intellectually prepared for an interview, the more that you're like just definitely utilizing all the resources that are available to you in the program. And we definitely want to offer those and make them like salient for you.
So Greg, you bring a lot to the table because you have been through this process. You have also served on staff, and you are still at a school and doing incredible things. So I would love for you to share, what is it like being a teacher, both when you were a fellow, now as you continue to serve in the classroom, what has made you decide to continue to stay in a school setting? Would love to just hear your experience and what your day-to-day looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly. Like it's been 7 years and I still like find it so hard to believe because like a lot has happened in that time. So if I like take it back to I was done with PST, stepping into the classroom, like, all the exciting feelings come into play. But also, what's important to know is like, again, you are not just being sent out to the depths of the teaching universe and being said to conquer. Like, you are being supported, but also something that you have to very much keep in mind is like, you have to be an advocate for yourself. And in that respect, what I mean is and you can almost be inundated with resources and not knowing which ones to choose and when. But you have to like, you're going to gain a certain amount of self-awareness too, that I think as an extension of PST, especially looking at some of the core texts that are used, is going to have you do that self-work to let you know, like, hey, when I'm in the classroom, I'm in this situation, I know that I need to reach out to my ITF coach. Or if something's not working here with my ITF coach completely, maybe I can like connect some dots by using my school resources and the instructional coaches there. Speaking to the balance with Marion, and along with being a teacher, I didn't find it to be like a complete, like it was an asset, in that much of the work that you're doing in Marion is an opportunity to connect back to the classroom. And I think if you're finding yourself struggling with that, making those connections, and how can I use what I'm learning here in class to support my instruction even the next day are going to be some of the things that pay off in dividends for you, in addition to having the intentional networking space with other people that are going through the similar transition into earning that master's degree as well. And then what you'll recognize too, when you're in the school and you're like developing yourself and you're definitely getting like all these skills throughout time, you're going to like get those responsibilities and be able to tap into those assets and be able to contribute more to the school community, not just from like the aspect of your classroom, but like knowing that you're a person and like you can build those human connections and definitely see through what it is that inspired you to want to teach in the first place. I think about like this week in particular for me, one of the reasons why I wanted to become a teacher is because I believe no matter where students are, whether they be in urban spaces, rural, suburban, that they should have a similar experience and exposure to be able to like catapult them into further experiences that they want post-secondary. And for me, that could be something as simple as having like a nice prom, a nice dance, right? So like all this week, I've just been like going at it, like trying to get things together for our prom that's going to happen after spring break. And initially, when you first step in the classroom, you don't think like, hey, I'm going to be the Spanish teacher who's teaching Spanish 1, maybe the first time exposing students to like a world language, to now I'm coordinating prom. And like, it's hard, but also like that brings me joy. And so the things that give you joy may not be the things that students are learning in your classroom. Those things should bring you joy most definitely. But you will find out that teaching and being an educator is like a versatile experience in that you are a human interacting with other humans that like just have needs, and like you are bringing experience to other people, to students and to their families and to a school community. And so really thinking through those things and fully integrating yourself in that way. Again, I keep on talking about this idea of being a sustaining educator. Those are the things that are going to like pay off in dividends ultimately.
Greg, I absolutely love that point. And I think that it's so easy for us to talk about like all the details and the logistics of getting in the classroom, but it's so great to keep in mind like what that further down the road picture looks like, what it looks like to be connected in a school, to be serving students, not just academically, but serving them well through their school experience and their environment, creating those safe spaces in your classroom for fun and exploration and various things. I think that keeping that end or further down the road goal in mind is just so valuable. I love that. And back to Candace and Greg's points about hiring, asking those questions in an interview. And if you know what you want the school culture to feel like where you go to work every day, being sure to ask those questions and make sure that if you are able to visit campus, that you're seeing it, being lived and breathed. Because we think that's really important and it leads to happiness in your work. So with that, we want to touch on some of the ways that financially this program can be a little more feasible for you. So we talked about a couple slides back, the cost of tuition at Marian, which is just shy of $13,000 for the 6 semesters or for the 2 years. And there are 2 major financial resources that we want to highlight that hopefully make that a bit more feasible for you as you're considering stepping into the program. The first that we want to highlight is some of our fellows are eligible for our Black Educator Excellence Cohort. BEEC is how you might hear it called. This is not something that is an additional application. It instead is something that you qualify for, and that for this upcoming year is going to total 3 disbursements of $1,250, and those serve as transitional stipends for our fellows that are eligible. If you want more information on this or think you might be eligible, please feel free to ask as you're communicating with us. We can make sure that you get the information about this, but once you're enrolled, you will for sure receive the necessary information to set this up. And that information is going out this next week. So if you're enrolled and you know that you qualified, be on the lookout. And the other one that I want to highlight, which I think is hugely beneficial to everyone in our cohort, is our partnership with the AmeriCorps program. So AmeriCorps is a national service organization that partners with various organizations that are doing good, solid work in areas of need across the country. And Indianapolis Teaching Fellows being that it serves in primarily high needs areas of Indianapolis in contents or specialties that is hard to find teachers. AmeriCorps has named TNTP and Indianapolis Teaching Fellows as a partner. And so what that means for our cohort members is that they are eligible for the education award that is given for the 2 years of the program. So 2 installments of this education award, which this upcoming year is $6,895 in an education award. When you double that over the 2 years, your tuition at Marian is essentially covered, which is a huge benefit to our fellows because it makes the program and earning your both master's and working towards your licensure in the state virtually free. And so this is something that we like to highlight because it is a huge benefit for our cohort members and something that we want to make sure you know that finances don't have to be a burden if this is a transition you are looking to make. There is, in joining with the AmeriCorps partnership, there is a required annual commitment of about 5 hours. It's completing a service project in your classroom with your students, really integrating that mindset of volunteerism and service in your classroom through a project of your choice and of your passion. So going back to what Greg was saying before, a really great way to often connect with students in a way that shows them your passion and what you enjoy doing. And so this is something that you'll continue to hear us talk about as you are enrolled, and you'll be walked through the process of enrollment in the AmeriCorps partnership. But if you have further questions, I am happy to answer them. I know Candace can as well, but this is something that we want all of our fellows to take advantage of. And so now I'm going to turn it back over to Candace. We have talked about the various components of the program and kind of the timeline. So Candace, would love to hear from you, kind of wrapping up in a bow, what the 2 years in its totality looks like.
Yeah, so once you complete enrollment, you will go straight into PST, and hopefully somewhere within that time, depending on when you enroll, we're hoping that you'll be able to be hired. We do have, I think Greg spoke to this a little bit earlier, just about the timeline for hiring. Sometimes it may be into PST that you're still taking interviews and kind of, weighing your decision, and that's totally fine. We want you to take your time. And so you'll be hired around that time. Typically with most of our school partners, they start school or start professional development with teachers within the last week of July. And by the time the first week of August hits is usually around the time that school starts. And so you'll begin teaching around that August time. Then late August, early September is when your fall semester at Marian will start. So that will start the overlap of you teaching and taking coursework at Marian. Typically those classes are offered Tuesdays and Thursdays in the evenings. So you won't have anything during the day. Some classes are also offered like on a Saturday, but within a given semester, you only have like a handful of those. But it depends on the class and the professor. But after your first year of Indianapolis Teaching Fellows, you'll actually complete our portion of the partnership. So after your first year, you're technically considered an ITF alumnus. And then your second year really consists of completing your coursework at Marian, taking your licensure exams, wrapping that portion up. There is a coaching component with Marian during your second year, but it's a lot more, I will say, academic, I would say, than the coaching support that you provide with us, just kind of making sure that you are meeting the state standards and things like that. And then graduation, hopefully by May 2025. So that's kind of the program in a nutshell.
And so we want to make sure to give you information on what happens next. You've heard a lot about our program, the different components, all the way from the application side down to the nitty-gritty of pre-service training and hiring, and then heard from Greg what it looks like and feels like to be a teacher in the classroom 7 years later. And so we hope we haven't overwhelmed you with information, but we also, I think Candace mentioned it in the beginning, this is not something that has to be committed to memory tonight, but instead we hope that you got some of the key questions that you have answered, but ultimately now know where the people resources are to support you along this process. And so want to highlight that we, for Indianapolis Teaching Fellows, only have 2 deadlines left because of our work with Marian and the timeline of the school year in Indianapolis. Our program kicks off right at the beginning of June. So we want to make sure that our cohort is really set about a month before that, which means that our 2 deadlines, first being March 28th, which is next Tuesday, and then in April, on April 17th. Both of those are representative of our final deadlines for the program. And we would love to see your application come in before that. Just a quick note for April 17th, that's when you have to have submitted your application. There are 2 other pieces in the process, but as long as you start the process by April 17th, we'll be able to support you in time to formally enroll for the summer. There are some other ways you are more than welcome to connect with us. I think the easiest way is through our email account, info@tntpteachingfellows.org. You'll get a really quick response that way. Also, when you start an application, you'll receive emails from me that have both an email opportunity or jumping on the phone or even texting. So lots of ways to communicate and get your questions answered. I know we have a few people joining us tonight, so if you have any questions, you can drop them in the chat in YouTube. Know that we will continue to check that feed, those comments, and answer questions, but also would love to hear from each of you as you consider joining the program, or if you're watching this at a later date, we are still here and happy to support. Candace or Greg, any closing words for Indianapolis Teaching Fellows this evening?
I would just say thanks for joining us. And if you know someone who also would make a great teacher, a great fellow, please feel free to refer them to us.
Echoing that sentiment from Candace, really Indianapolis Teaching Fellows is a program that I owe all the thanks to for just getting me plugged into education in Indy and seeing where I started and where I am now and the potential of where I have to go, where I can go because of the people I know, but also the experiences I've had, kind of really just beckon back to this for sure.
That's awesome. I think that's a great way to end a plug from someone who really benefited from the program. So Candace, Greg, we are grateful you joined us this evening. Thank you for those that have tuned in for your time, and we look forward to hopefully connecting with you soon. The application link is in the comments, and we look forward to hearing from you.